Hi everyone, ready to do some math? Today we cover a special trick for percentages which makes things really easy and really fun, so let's jump right in. This is the trick that's been blowing up the internet of math. So for today's video, we're going to look at, for example, when we have 4% of 75, thinking instead of switching those guys around and saying, oh, well, that's the same as 75% of the number 4. And that'll be super useful because 75% of 4 is just 3/4 of 4, which is just 3. Whereas 4% of 75 is a little bit more difficult to handle. Now, this is only true because multiplication is commutative. And what this means, for example, is that 4 times 75 is the same thing as 75 times 4. So commutative in mathematical terms means that whether you do an operation one way or you do it the other way, the result will be the same. So the concept of commutative multiplication is useful here because 4% of 75, that is really the same as saying 4 over 100, and you can change this of to a times and say times 75. Now 4 over 100 is the same as 4 times 1 over 100 times 75. And here you could put the 75 at the top and at the top of the 100 and put it first and say this is 75 over 100 times 4. And 75 over 100 is going to be 75% of the number 4, which is exactly the same statement as when we switch the numbers around. So this means that in any situation where you have a percent of a number b, you can always say that that's b percent of the number a. And this is always going to be true for the same reasons that we discussed before. You can prove it the same way we did previously by saying a divided by 100 times b is equal to b divided by 100 times a. So this relationship is going to be very useful whenever you have an operation that might be a little bit difficult one way but a lot easier the other way. So we could look at it in an operation like 8% of, for example, 25, and say that that's the same as 25% of 8, and 25% of 8 is 1/4 of 8, which is 2, and that's so much easier than doing 8% of 25. So this is a good place to stop for this rule. Thank you so much for watching the Mathemagic channel. This was a very cool percentage trick. I hope you enjoyed it. We shall see you on the next one. Bye-bye.